Welcome back, everybody, to Hoop Symmetry, where we talk about the game of basketball in detail in hopes of further pushing the balance surrounding the game of basketball. So today we got a very important topic. We're talking about none other than the two amazing star rookies in the WNBA, Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. The reason I wanted to get into this was very simple. Over the past few years now, there's been a lot of buzz surrounding these two players following their journeys from college into the WNBA, and because of that, they're both like tied to each other. Their careers will forever be tethered because of their history in the NCAA and now their history in the WNBA and all the buzz surrounding it. And I want to go and unpack some of that and share a couple of my opinions. Start off with, both are great players in their own right. Angel Reese is a great young player. She has an amazing future ahead of her. Caitlin Clark has the same thing. However, these two players could not be further apart from each other in many facets. One's a guard, one's more of a forward slash big. One shoots, one plays a little bit more on the perimeter. One's white, one's black, one's Iowa, a small school. One played in LSU with a bunch of big time recruits, etc., etc. They couldn't be further apart from each other. However, they're still interconnected in their basketball journeys. Before I give my opinion on either one of these amazing athletes, I want to recap some of what has been happening so that people who maybe have not been following this story can kind of be caught up to date. So those of you who don't know, Caitlin Clark played for Iowa, smaller school, not many big time recruits, predominantly white, whereas Angel Reese played at LSU. Big time school, a lot of big time recruits, predominantly black team. And as these two teams were setting off to face, as Angel Reese was making headway with her team and Caitlin Clark was becoming this mainstream media sensation with her play, these teams were on a collision course a couple years back, and it created a lot of controversy from the trash talk Angel Reese was doing, following the trash talk that Caitlin Clark was doing, not necessarily towards LSU, but just in general. It created this kind of racial divide. So it took this issue from a basketball thing to something mainstream. We cannot ignore elephants in the room. I felt like, and most people felt like, there was a lot of unfair criticism coming LSU's way. They were called outside their names, all types of things that really get outside of the sport of basketball because race plays a factor. It's kind of like the Magic and Larry Bird situation. We cannot ignore elephants in the room. There's a lot of people in the country who are going to gravitate more towards one cultural approach of doing things, being things. Certain things come off to them a certain type of way, and another group from another place in the country where things come off a different types of way. That is what it is. However, where it becomes out of bounds is when people start becoming super hateful and start spewing these things, which is, I feel like, what was happening predominantly towards LSU and Angel Reese's way. They were called all types of names outside of themselves just for being athletes and competing. Fans say they clamor for that type of approach in basketball. They want more trash talk. They want less friendliness. They want more people playing with an edge. People say they love Dennis Rodman and these type of players. However, whenever you get any type of modern iteration of these type of players, they're the most hated by far. I guess that comes with the territory, but it is kind of speaks to the hypocrisy of fandom, but I'm not going to go off on that tangent. LSU was receiving all types of hate, but LSU ended up winning, and it became like this whole big deal. And so that became the issue. And then later on, they were facing again, and they kind of continued. There were kind of small little back and forth between Caitlin and Angel Reese, even though Caitlin and Angel Reese always showed each other the utmost respect off the court with all of their comments towards each other. I think both of them respect each other as competitors and athletes. Kind of became an issue outside of them. And though that's just a reality of human nature, people have a tendency to identify with things that kind of resemble them and kind of have more of this xenophobic approach to things that kind of rub them the wrong way, can come off more abrasive. That just means kind of fear of something different. It kind of did a little bit disservice to both of these young ladies' games. Basketball, just like most sports, are one of the best examples we have in society of a meritocracy, which is just basically where you stand on what you are. You stand on what you can do, can't do, whatever. Race, religion, all types of things like that are kind of taken outside the court because it comes down to, can you play or can you not? This person can shoot and they can dribble and they can pass and they can defend. Doesn't matter if they're black, white, blue, orange. Doesn't matter if what God they pray to. It doesn't matter where they're from, what language they speak. that just translates a lot of times when it's taken a little bit more outside of that to some people that can turn them off to sports. However, the reality is that people playing these sports are human, and their culture and the things that mean something to them are part of the human experience, and a lot of times that matters to them, so they're playing also for those type of stakes. And so this whole storm kind of followed both athletes coming into the WNBA. The other unfortunate part about this kind of black-white cultural divide is that it kind of put both of these athletes against each other that don't really belong against each other. It's like a strange, clunky rivalry. The reason being is because of the initial statements we made. Angel Reese is playing the forward while Caitlin Clark is playing the guard position. Angel Reese is not really a scorer or defending Caitlin Clark, and Caitlin Clark is not banging with Angel Reese down low. Like, they're not really going at each other, so it's kind of a weird rivalry to have. And then the second part of it is Angel Reese is also just not Caitlin Clark. When it was going through all those deals, I was rooting for LSU. That's more of where I come from. I felt like they were being treated unfairly, and I loved their energy. I loved their swagger. I loved Flau'jae and everything that they were doing together. I loved LSU, so I was rooting for LSU. I'm a basketball person, so evaluating game is just evaluating game. And I also really love Caitlin Clark as a player, and just if I take away what I like or don't like, in a vacuum, evaluating it, Angel Reese doesn't really belong in that conversation with a Caitlin Clark. Angel Reese, a very good young player, broke the WNBA rebounding record. He's a dog out there, gonna compete hard, defend, lefties. She has future potential with a crafty finishing, and lefties always have that type of potential ahead of them. She has to work on her touch, but we'll get to that later in the video. That's what Angel Reese is. She's gonna get you a bunch of offensive rebounds. He's that prototypical undersized big who plays hard, quick second jump off the ground, like a rookie Julius Randle. That's kind of my comp for her, and I'll get more to that at the end. But that type of player is going to work really hard, not much of a shooter, going to play mostly on the inside, a great explosive athlete, but good enough to finish down low, and gonna really work her ass off. And that type of player also should never be slept on. That's a very valuable player to have, and I do think she has other potential to do other things, which we'll talk about a little later. Very good young player profile, and that I've seen before be very successful in women's basketball. Caitlin Clark, on the other hand, is something I've never seen before in women's basketball. She's like the Steph Curry approach, movement, deep range shooter, break it down to dribble, excellent passer, work on or off the ball, very heady player, very smart player, good hands, good team defender. But her shot making, her deep range shot making off the dribble, off the catch, off the move is something that I've never seen in women's basketball ever. And because of that, she's breaking the mold just by her play. She is a generational talent just by her play. Rookie year aside, everyone that knows could see Caitlin Clark is going to be an all-time great women's basketball player. She's going to be one for the books. How dynamic she is as a player. And going along with that point, you can see the roles that they kind of matriculated to in the WNBA. Angel Reese right now is playing a good role on a team that's not doing too well, but she's grabbing a lot of boards, playing hard, competing hard, scoring a decent amount. She's like the third leading scorer on her team behind Carter and Mabry, of course, those guards out there. And she's really struggling with her efficiency and those type of things. I anticipate those things to improve. Whereas Caitlin Clark is the offensive engine of her team, which is the hardest thing to be in basketball. When you're the offensive engine, that means everything's running through you. You're the quarterback. They say the quarterback is the hardest position to play in sports for a reason, is because everything on the scoring side of the football game relies on this quarterback making a decision. And whether they make good or bad decisions and how well they execute those decisions determines basically the fate of our team. And so that's basically what you have when you have an offensive engine. Someone's making all your decisions, who's make or break whether we win or lose. And that is Caitlin Clark. That's what she's been tasked to be, and she's done that and led her team to the playoffs in her first year after getting drafted #1 overall. It's insane what she's been able to do. Leading her team in scoring, leading her team in assists, third in rebounding on her team, leading her team in steals. Started off struggling from the field, of course, adjusting to the new level of play. She's still doing that, and she kind of started finding her stride, finding her legs. Some people even have tried to criticize her defense, but Caitlin Clark is not like a poor defensive player. Of course, she has room to improve. Sometimes she can stand up a little stiff, the best lateral mover, but she's a guard, and she's averaging more blocks than Angel Reese, averaging over 1 steal a game. She's also a really good rebounder for her position. She's like a triple-double threat every night. She's a fantastic passer, one of the best in the whole WNBA. You combine all of those skill sets and you have this once-in-a-lifetime type of player. Now we're putting a once-in-a-lifetime type of player paired with a very good player who plays a completely different position in a completely different situation. And not only is that part of the conversation, Caitlin Clark has also had to endure like some of the most crazy amount of snide comments and weird hating type of rhetoric going into the WNBA, even though she's not done much of anything wrong. But it ties back into the earlier point, this kind of outside of the sport, these narratives and talking points have kind of completely transformed the conversation. So now there's people who don't like Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark hasn't done anything because of the conversation surrounding her. And none of that is her fault. She's had to deal with a lot, from being snubbed from the Olympic team and all types of different things where people can talk about. But just the conversation around her has just been very weird for a very great young player. And sometimes this happens. Older people just try to knock them down a peg to try to earn your stripes and all that type of thing, and haze, and people kind of want to make you work for it. And that's not just in sports, that's in many different industries. Whenever you have the new fresh blood coming into a place, for some reason, this kind of inherent reaction to kind of try to put them in their place when they're first joining a situation, which is a weird thing about society, but that's kind of just the way it is. And so Caitlin Clark's been receiving that in spades. I've seen it kind of with Lonzo Ball or Zion. They tried to do Zion, but he was a man child, so it wasn't too much they could do with that. But a lot of different guys who were kind of super hyped. We seen the video when LeBron was drafted, and Derek Smiles and those guys were just like, yeah, nah, he's not gonna, just trying to demean their life because they're young and haven't proven anything, which is okay because it's up to them to go and prove it, and Caitlin Clark is now doing so. I don't feel like holding Angel Reese to the standard of Caitlin Clark is fair at all, because I don't feel like most people are of the standard of a Caitlin Clark. And even when you have those great players like the Asia Wilsons and the Maya Moores, and these other players who are like on that par with how talented they are with a Caitlin Clark, they haven't been as dynamic as far as for the viewer's eyes aesthetically, and just as a player in the women's basketball game to kind of captivate audiences in the same way. So even though they may be as good, they're not as dynamic and captivating and worth a watch. There's a reason why Stephen Curry has been the most fun to watch in the NBA for a while. He's also better than most other guards, but still, even if you consider some other people on par, it's something about the excitement of the style of play. But neither are perfect players, so that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about a couple of different areas of improvement I would like to see from both players continuing their career. First, we're going to start with Caitlin Clark, since we were on her. She dribbles upright a lot of times, which a lot of times can lead to her being a little turnover prone, or athletes who can really pressure the ball and get into her body, bothering her a little bit more. I feel like if she can come down on her handle and tighten that up, as far as getting stronger, that's going to really help most of the things in her game. Even if you watched the matchup last year in college basketball towards the end, when they put, I'm forgetting her name, she was very athletic, and they put her to pressure the ball. She got a few steals, few deflections. I think that was the girl that she played last year who she like waved to. Name just escaping the top of my head, but again, those athletes who can really press her the ball, because she stands so upright with her handle, it's a long distance from the floor to where she's dribbling. Gives a lot of opportunity for the quick-handed defenders to get in there, and she can really improve that. She can also strengthen her handle and create more moves. Right now, she really likes to rely on that right to left step back move to get the three, so right to left crossover to step back, and then she likes to shoot that shot off of that from deep. That's like her go-to, and it's a very good move. I just want her to get more counters off of that, and I think that'll make her more dynamic, as well as just getting physically stronger so she can handle more of this pounding that she's going to keep receiving. As far as Angel Reese goes, I feel like the main improvement area for her is going to be shooting and finishing. Right now, you know, everyone has the memes of the Angel Reese play where you kind of throw it off the rim and you keep getting your offensive rebound, and then you finally put it back in, because right now her touch is not where it needs to be. When we used to hoop, you know, people call that point shaving or stat padding. You can do either one of the two. Stat padding because you're just getting more rebounds like that. You're not actually, of course, no one actually believes, or no one, I hope, believes that she's actually missing these to just get an offensive rebound. It's just kind of a funny joke, but she already has the advantage of being lefty, which already throws defenders off a little bit. So if she can get more crafty around the rim and just work on her touch around the rim, I think it's going to bode really well for her. She's going to have to learn and really practice her shooting. Like right now, if you look at her form's not even bad. She has a pretty good form. So it just comes down to confidence and reps and just shooting into the game. You can drill things all day long, but if you don't have that confidence upstairs, to shoot that shot in game, it does you no good. A lot of people don't understand there's a big difference between me shooting in an open gym and then when I get on the court, just the thought of me thinking, okay, my teammates and my coach and everyone around me wants me to shoot this shot in order for a team to have the best advantage. And so let me just step into the shot confidently and shoot it. If you're second guessing like, should I shoot this shot? Is this a good shot? Could we get something better? Can I find someone else? Everyone else has been shooting. Let me do something different. If you have any of those thoughts going in your mind, all of that can sway your jump shot, which a lot of times has less margin for error than a shot closer to the rim. If you kind of adapt that mentality that if I'm open and shooting it, this is the best shot we're gonna get, just that little mental switch can really increase a player's shot performance. So a lot of times it's just confidence. That's what people mean when they say the word confidence. Like people just throw that word out there, but it's really that. It's like clarity. Like if I'm swing wide open, the reason why a lot of people make more of those shots is because it's clear. The decision's clear. There's no indecisiveness. I'm supposed to shoot the shot. We move the ball and it's right here. Versus if you pass it one side, there may be a second guessing like, should I shoot this shot? Is this a good shot? Or am I a little open? Whenever you have that internal battle, any of that can sway it just a little bit, degrees of a standard variation, and impact the result. So just doing that. And I also think ball handling. I think Angel Reese can be similar to like a Julius Randle type of player. If you watch where Julius Randle came into the league to where he is now, Julius Randle wasn't doing that much ball handling. He always has a little bit of a handle, and I think Angel Reese has a little bit of a handle, but she can definitely improve it because again, it's confidence, just drilling it. Anthony Davis came in the league with kind of a subpar handle. He worked with dribble too much, and now you see what he does a lot. I feel like her ball handling can improve a lot, and again, just shooting, same thing. Julius Randle didn't come in much of a shooter. Take shots. He's still not a great shooter, but it's at least capable. Sometimes you swing, you'll close out to Julius Randle at least some of the time. So that's where I feel like both of those ladies can work with their game to improve and be better pros. And I would like to see this conversation kind of start to evolve from just comparing them and kind of tying them to each other into a more just individual evaluation. You kind of seen this with like Trae Young, Luka. First couple years, everything Trae Young did had to do with Luka. Everything Luka did had to do with Trae Young. And as Luka has kind of started rising to this all-time type of status, and he's consistently building that resume, and Trae Young has had his own personal success and reached high in the playoffs and had his own personal things, they've kind of started to build out their own individuality as far as the discussions go around them. And I would love to see that happen as well with Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, because I think both of those ladies deserve it in their own right. They're both stars in their own right. They both are great. And I think they both have very, very bright futures, just doing completely different things. Clearly, like I said, Caitlin Clark is definitely the better player. She's on a different type of progression sheet than Angel Reese is, but there's no knock in that. Most people are. Most people are. There's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to not be one of the most electric players that WNBA has ever seen. It's okay to be very, very good. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not a slight. That's all for today. I just kind of wanted to touch on those kind of topics just because I felt like the conversation was a little weird around it, and I didn't want it to get too out of control, so not gonna get too long-winded on that. My name's Akil. That's all I got for you guys today. This is Hoop Symmetry, and I'm out.